So how are you feeling now, Newcastle fans? It was quite a night, wasn't it? Most people's nerves, I guess, over the course of the evening weren't too badly frayed, though, because the Magpies, well, they built on the advantage which they'd already created in the first half.
The black and white flags have been put down, and now the black and white scarves are being twirled around. 2-0 up after a brilliant win in North London a month ago. Will they do it? Bruno to Tonali, and then Gordon onto Alexander Isak into the penalty area. Here's Isak. It's there! Oh, what a start. Alexander Isak with an incredible finish. The goal will not count. That's the referee confirming that it's offside. Still 0-0. Trossard's got it, rolls it into Odegaard in the penalty area. Like gets the return ball and a massive block. Huge block in the centre of the penalty area, and Arsenal trying to come through again. Martinelli, edge of the area, goes down under a challenge and then wide of goal inside the box. That is a big moment. Isak with a good help on, gets it back from Gordon. He's in again. Oh, he's hit the woodwork. Murphy has scored. Jacob Murphy for Newcastle United, following up after Alexander Isak cracked one off the woodwork. And maybe this goal will stand. And it's Newcastle United 1, Arsenal 0, and 3-0 on aggregate. Paul plays it inside, straight to Odegaard. Havertz into the middle. Dubravka with a stop, and behind by Cher for a corner.
Oh, I tell you what, this is some game.
Gordon on the outside of Rice. Gordon, edge of the area. It's gone for the curler. And it's just wide. There are 45 minutes to navigate, and they will be going back to Wembley. But the job is still not done. Header there from Gabriel. Not the best for Saliba's lost it to Gordon. Gordon with an open goal, and it's just wide. Raya puts the ball on the floor. Gordon goes to close down. Cher's won it. Gordon. This time it's in. This time it's in from Anthony Gordon. And Newcastle United are almost there. 52 minutes played in the second leg. 2-0 on the night again, and 4-0 to Newcastle United on aggregate.
Game, set, match. Pack your bags, go home. Get your rail tickets, get your hotel tickets. Get anything you want, because there's no way in the world Arsenal are recovering from this.
They have done it. There's going to be another Wembley weekend, because Newcastle United are into a second League Cup final in 3 seasons, and it's the sort of night that for many years these fans could only dream of. But Eddie Howe and his team are making this a reality, and are making this a bit of a habit, and this season could still bring silverware. What an achievement to get back to Wembley, and what a prospect on Sunday the 16th of March. Newcastle United in another cup final.
Yeah, it takes us back to 2 years ago, I guess, but also plenty of differences as well, which I guess we'll talk about as the evening progresses. But it was quite a night raiser, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really special. And look, the chance from Martin Odegaard at 0-0 after Isak's brilliant goal had been disallowed for offside, and that gave Newcastle the perfect start until VAR got involved. It turned on that moment, because very quickly Newcastle went up the other end, got in, and Jacob Murphy with a really good finish, difficult finish that he put in. Don't underestimate how awkward that was with the angle and the pace on the ball. And I think from that moment, you just kind of felt really, on reflection, you felt that they were there and it was going to be their night. I was nervous before the game. I know a lot of supporters were. If Arsenal had scored first at any point during the night, whether it was early or late, then the pressure really would have been on. But Newcastle handled the emotional side of things, and as we'll come on to shortly, tactically, Eddie Howe with changes and his staff, they got it spot on. The players delivered it brilliantly. Arsenal dominated possession, had lots of corner kicks, but they couldn't find a way through. It was incumbent on them to try and bring the game to Newcastle, and they had the perfect game plan for it. And an examination of them, wasn't it, this semi-final against a top team in Arsenal? but they've come through it brilliantly.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're now in really good shape in terms of the League Cup for what will be ahead of them at Wembley.
Steve, a lot of people got in touch with us when the team came out last night, and they had their concerns, it has to be said. Some people felt it was a bit too negative, a bit too defensive. They were worried that would give the impetus to Arsenal straight away. As it turned out, though, Eddie Howe got it spot on, didn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, the result proves that. I think initially you look at the team and no Livramento, so Trippier comes in, no Joe Linton, who we all know is pretty much one of the first ones on the team sheet. But yeah, I mean, as Reza said, he's pretty much covered the vast majority of stuff. I think everybody was thinking, listen, if Arsenal score first, regardless of when it is, and Newcastle don't score, then of course it's going to be nervy. I mean, we all know that Arsenal are a threat. There has been a lot said about Arsenal about needing a striker, but they've still got threats. And I think one of the main ones is from set players, particularly corners. So I have to see it. The way that they defended them, as players, but also the goalkeeper, because he helped a lot. He came out a lot of times and punched it or collected it. I don't think I've seen a team cope with their set players better than what Newcastle have done. And I haven't seen anybody really cause Saliba and Gabriel as much problems, and for them to be as shaky and kind of looking bewildered as much as what them two were under, Gordon, Murphy in particular, Isaac. But it was a wonderful performance. The big chance is Odegaard. He should score. 100% he should score. But ultimately, Newcastle absolutely deserved that. 100% deserved that. Great team performance, great togetherness. You could see that Arsenal players at the end were losing the rag. You look at the Rice challenge, for instance. I don't understand why he doesn't get booking.
It's incredible that he wasn't booked. I'm not sure what the referee said to him, because he started pointing around the pitch as though it was not his first one either, and then he still didn't book him.
Well, yeah, because I think just before that, he'd ran past Tonali and bundled him over off the ball, and the referee just let that go. And that in itself was something to be looked at. Probably it's not a booking, but certainly, I mean, the challenge on Guimaraes is a booking full stop, regardless. But on top of what he'd done as well to Tonali, and then in kind of racing around a little bit the way that he was, he's kind of running around like a headless chicken in the end, and he's getting so frustrated. You've seen the camera go on him, and you could see him mouth something to one of his Arsenal teammates, and it was basically taking the mick, but he didn't use those words. And I think he'd lost his oath a little bit. But ultimately, the performance was absolutely superb. So regardless of who wins tonight, I mean, you'd prefer Tottenham, don't get me wrong, but playing like that, you'd fancy them against anybody, and it's a one-off game. And we've seen time and time again, in finals, a team can turn a team over.
0800 234 6565. I'd love to hear from you tonight. 08000 321 333 on WhatsApp. If you want to send us a WhatsApp note, or even a voice note as well.
Hello, Steve. It's Graham from Seton Sluice. So I was being my dream to see the tune in a final. So if you could sort us tickets, that'd be cush. Cheers, Steve.
You helping Graham in Seton Sluice?
That's you.
It's not me. Graham in Seton Sluice sent us a voice note. Anyway, should we have Eddie Howe now, Reza?
Yes, I don't think he's going to be asking you for tickets, Steve. So, you don't need to worry here. He'll be getting a lot of requests for tickets, won't he?
He will.
Eddie Howe, yeah. Should we hear from him on his pride?
I dreamt about him last night.
Did you?
Yeah, he was doing the park run. Anyway, carry on.
Okay. Right, let's hear from Eddie Howe on his pride at taking Newcastle to a second cup final in 3 seasons.
It's an unbelievable football club. I said many times I feel such a special feeling being here. The people are so unique, they're friendly, so passionate about the football club. To be able to make a lot of Geordies happy tonight gives me an immense pride, and of course the focus is to try and go one better, but a great night for us.
Yeah, you could see on his face at the end. I mean, just he was absolutely beaming, Reza.
He was, because he was under pressure last night, and they were without Pridey, a huge player for them, well, physically, and just, I think what he gives Newcastle United in terms of belief in the way that they play. Joe Linton, with the physicality, energy, intensity, massive part of that three-man midfield, which was a different midfield last night. Only Bruno and Tonali in there, although it was a very fluid system. So he had to come up with a solution, something different, and he did. I asked Eddie Howe after the game about the changes he made. Kieran Trippier came in, was brilliant in one of 2 switches. Sven Botman was restored to the side as well. So it was an extra defender in the absence of the injured Joelinton.
Totally different way of playing today for us. Same principles, but just a different start point. So we felt with Joe's height being such a big factor in our defending of set plays, we needed extra height. We needed to get that into the team somehow, and the only way to do that was to play an extra defender. So that was probably the big dynamic we felt we needed, but also felt with an extra defender in our back line would possibly help us with the experience of those 3 players in the middle, Fabian, Sven and Dan. I thought they did really well. Of course, yeah, as you say, at times Dan and Fabi were leaving their position to press, but that was all part of how we prepared the game.
Fabian Schär there in a really advanced position, winning the ball back for Anthony Gordon for the second goal. Just before you move on, Pridey, Steve, since we're talking about Joelinton, I suppose we should hear from Eddie Howe now on how bad his knee injury actually is.
It's serious enough for him to be missing a few weeks. I don't know the exact timescale right now, but it'll be enough to see him miss the next few league games, I think.
But great for you to get Callum Wilson back late on.
Yeah, massive. Massive that when losing Joey, we were able to bring Callum in. Perfect timing, really, in that respect, because we have another attacker that we can use, someone of Callum's ability and talent. If we can just keep him fit, will be a massive lift for us.
He was there watching last night, was Joelinton, Steve. He had a Newcastle shirt from the entertainers era on, with whose name on the back, do you reckon?
It was Shearer's.
It was. Did you see it, did you?
Did.
Okay, fair enough. But he was living every moment. I was watching the game at some points, and they'll want him back. It's a little bit vague there, isn't it? The time scale, I guess, but they would hope he'll be available by the time the final comes around.
Yeah, you'd think so, with it being 6 weeks away, something like that. They've got some big Premier League matches coming up before then, including Manchester City, Nottingham Forest and Liverpool at the end of, or later this month, but you won't see Joelinton for a little while on what Eddie Howe has said there, but I don't think he would have played against Birmingham necessarily anyway. It's a blow, but it'll give an opportunity to other players from this weekend, and there were 3 midfielders who would have hoped to have started last night who were on the bench. Now they were introduced, weren't they, those players? Newcastle will miss Joelinton, but brilliant from Eddie Howe to set them up the way that he did last night. People wouldn't have expected it. They warmed up with a back 4, and I know on television they were suggesting that Lewis Hall could be in midfield. So I think the uncertainty that it caused, the lineup and the way Newcastle would play, because they don't change it very often, they did last night, and in a massive game, biggest game of the season, it worked and was delivered perfectly.
Worked a treat, didn't it? Yeah. Who stood out for you, Steve?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I mean, I don't think you can get too far away from Isak. He just causes problems. I thought defensively, though, everybody was excellent. I mean, Kieran Trippier, I think he'd been eating raw meat before the game, hadn't he? I think he was wanting to go around kicking everybody and square up to them, which he did like Gabriel. I think one time he ran past Murphy to do that. It's difficult to pick one, because I just think every one of them contributed in such a good way, which helped the combination of the team's performance. Again, I've got to say, which I've said a good few weeks, and I've said it a lot, I don't think you can underestimate, for me, a player that's not as everybody talks about all the other players, but the one that doesn't get mentioned, and he's not everybody's favourite. Now, I think it's invaluable to the team now, and that's Murphy. Mm-hmm. I think he's brilliant for the team. I mean, and as Reza said, that chance was so difficult, and for him to get it in was impressive. So if I'm pushed, I'd say him, but I thought everybody was absolutely superb.
Yeah, took it very well, didn't he? Came to him very quickly, but he tucked it away. 0800 234 6565. Let us know your thoughts on last night's game. And Alexander Isak, that disallowed goal. It was fine margins. They took forever, didn't they, Reza, to rule it offside. But what a goal it would have been.
Oh, it was a terrific finish across the keeper into the corner. Gordon found him with a good ball. At the time, I thought he was level. There were some camera angles that suggested he was onside, others where you weren't so sure. You're right, it took a long time, and it was in Newcastle United terms the first time that we've heard the referee announce the decision. In the other semi-final, the first leg at Tottenham, there was a goal disallowed, and the referee that night announced the decision to the crowd. Simon Hooper, the referee, I couldn't hear it very clearly, to be perfectly honest. I don't know how it was for you. Told everyone in the stadium why the goal had been disallowed.
Well, it was drowned out by booing because people realised what it was.
Yeah,
So.
but you don't really learn a lot, because I think when you're there, you understand what it's for, and there's the graphic on the giant screen at the Leazes end that tells you that there's a VAR check. But I suppose that's a piece of Newcastle United trivia. Just a shame for Isak. That would have been his 20th goal of the season, and it would have been 3-3 against Arsenal in this campaign. They do not like playing against him, as Steve's already mentioned.
What did you think, Steve, of Arsenal's performance?
I mean, it had a lot of possession, but just they do lack. I mean, yes, they scored 5 against Manchester City, but they do lack that killer instinct. As I said, you look at Odegaard. I think Odegaard's a fabulous player, but he doesn't score enough. Rice doesn't score enough. Havertz misses too many chances for me, or he's not. I mean, you look at the one he passed up and gave to Odegaard for the first goal against Manchester City. It's the same with Trossard, Martinelli. You know, they're just. I mean, you can see the owners sort of saying, "Well, look, we've scored so many goals, so we don't need a striker." But I think for Arsenal to push on and go that next level, they do need a striker. But ultimately, had a lot of the ball, but just couldn't break down a very, very solid. I'm going to say defence, but a whole team really. So I think fair play's just got to go to Newcastle. Not really anything about Arsenal. I just think how good Newcastle were.
Let's hear a bit more from Eddie Howe, then we'll hear from Anthony Gordon as well. Eddie Howe has now been there and done it with Newcastle in terms of taking them to Wembley, so he's probably learned from that experience.
Well, it was a painful experience, but this is not the first time for them, and for most of these Newcastle players, there's lots of experience in the squad. Players like Kieran Trippier, Sandro Tonali, and many others who have big game experience, whether it's for their countries or in the Champions League. And Newcastle, as a club, have Champions League experience. They've had some big nights. So when you look at where they are now compared to where they were 2 years ago, as Eddie Howe's about to tell us, Newcastle United have certainly benefited from everything that they've been through. And I also think, without going into too much depth now, all the emotion that was around 2 years ago probably wasn't a good thing for them. It all meant so much to everybody. Manchester United turned up, didn't play that well, won the trophy. So maybe this time it will be a more clinical Newcastle, everything more focused on the match, and then the emotion can come afterwards. Eddie Howe thinks that they are better equipped this time compared to 2 years ago to deal with a cup final.
Yeah, I think we've come a long way since then. I mean, I think the Champions League does that to you, that experience was so testing and so unique that naturally I think now for the big games, I think that a lot of the players have been there before. The quick turnarounds, that forces you in terms of our game plans and preparations to work quicker and smarter. I think there's a really good feeling about the squad. We're tight in numbers but high in quality. I'd love to think we can go to Wembley and play better than we did before. We were slightly disappointed with our performance. We're going to play an elite team, whoever it is, Tottenham or Liverpool. I think it'd be a great final.
Yes, and we've got plenty of time to build up to that final. I'm sure we'll discuss how they can go one better than last time in the next 6 weeks or so. Who are you fancying tonight, Steve? Do you think Liverpool will overturn the narrow deficit that Spurs currently have?
Yeah, I think they'll turn it around. I think they've got the too much, especially with it being at Anfield as well. I mean, Ange Postecoglou's kind of put it on the line, didn't he, by sort of saying they always win something in the second season. I think it would be a big shock if they did come away with a victory there.
Okay, and in terms of the final, any news yet about tickets? Obviously, Steve's going to help where he can, but there are more official channels as well.
Steve's got them all. We don't know yet. Nothing's been announced by Newcastle United. Last time they got more than 30,000. The two clubs last time, so this is 2 years ago, were given 75% of the capacity of Wembley, and that was split down the middle, and then the rest went to sponsors, Club Wembley members and people like that. So not as many as Newcastle would like, but we'll just have to wait for news from the club on that. Again, from a club point of view, this is not new because they went through all of this 2 years ago, but as soon as we know anything, we'll tell you about it here on Total Sport. Sunday the 16th of March for the final. There are some reports today that Trafalgar Square, where Newcastle fans congregated before the Manchester United match 2 years ago, will not be available because of St Patrick's Day celebrations coming up that weekend. So that will mean that potentially the weekend will look different for fans who go on the Saturday. The other thing, Pridey, is that there's no confirmation of the kick-off time of the final yet. I imagine all of that will come after tonight's second leg at Anfield.
What time, remind us, what time was it 2 years ago, the kick-off?
I can't remember, actually.
No, I can't either.
4:30, 4:15?
It was around then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was around then.
Yeah.
We can check.
Reed Howie, it's been a while, mate. I hope you're doing well. Family doing good. And you got them piles sorted yet. Anyway, be good to get a catch-up. You sort us out some tickets for the match. I can come and meet you down there and pick them up, like outside the ground or at a KFC or something, whatever. Just get some decent tickets for mate. See ya.
Didn't leave his name on there, but I've got his number, Steve. Don't worry. Don't know who he was, though. Do you know him?
Good to know. Absolutely not.
No. Okay. Any more voice notes? 08000 321 333. Start your message.
Steve, you'll see the funny side of this
Let us
by
be
8 o'clock. You will.
There's a lot of people getting in touch.
Believe me, I won't see the funny side of it because he's very childish and it bugs us. And he knows it bugs us. But
that's why he does it.
Believe me, you see him and realise that how much it bugs us.
Has anybody actually texted you yet or messaged you on WhatsApp or whatever to ask for tickets?
Nobody's got my number. In all fairness, that's the point. I'm deleting your number and you will be blocked. Idiot.
No, yeah, I need to get in touch with you for important production reasons.
No, go through somebody else. Somebody that's sensible. Ray's lovely, so just go through Ray's and now I know it'll be sensible. Not you absolute buffoon.
Shall we hear from Anthony Gordon, Razor?
Yeah, this was Anthony Gordon's reaction at full time.
We felt good coming into the game because we got off to a good start in the first leg, but I think the first goal in that game was going to be massive because if they would have got the first, they would have got really tense, I imagine, so it was good to get that. I think I've been in some great moments with the club in the Champions League and stuff where we've won big games here, but that's probably my best moment so far because it's probably the biggest game of my career so far, semi-final. It'll be my first game at Wembley at club level, so really excited.
And Anthony Gordon loved the pre-match display when the players came out with the flags, and he says the atmosphere throughout the night was special.
I expected it, to be honest. Like I said, I've been in some big nights here and they never let us down. Any big occasion we have, any big game, the fans always turn up for us. They always make it so hard for the opposition, and I think the importance of that can't get lost on them because it really is like a 12th man. I've been here as an away player. It's not easy.
Gordon got Newcastle's second goal last night early in the second half. I asked him how he felt when he saw the ball hit the net.
Oh, it feels amazing. Especially after I missed the chance where Raya was off his line. But that just, every time I miss a chance, honestly, it makes me believe that I'm going to score even more because it's like I owe it to myself at that point. So as soon as I missed that, I was like, I know I'm going to score. And then that felt to me, it was just a touch and a finish. I work on that, so yeah, it's good.
Interesting to hear his mindset there then, and you can almost hear the smile on his face as he's talking there. I mean, Steve, everyone played well, of course, you've already said that. He was someone that stood out for me mainly just because of the ridiculous energy that he had and the lung-bursting runs that he made time after time, sometimes pretty much the full length of the pitch. Sometimes he didn't even get the ball, but then his head wouldn't drop, he'd get back into position again and he'd go again. It was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there was times he was tracking back, and I think one time he made a challenge where he kind of shepherded the ball back out for a goal kick. I think the one that you have to look at, though, is sometimes, just for instance, you look at Arsenal and they're very, very good at set plays. He gives a foul away very early in the game within the first 1 or 2 minutes when he pulls Havertz. That's like kind of playing into the opposition's hands, really. So little things like that. I know you can be frustrated, but it's a stupid one to make. I think he's still only a young lad, but he is experienced. He should know not to do that now. But there's no doubt his pace, his directness causes problems. He'd be a little bit disappointed with that chance with Ray. I think he's, play of his quality should probably score. But at the same time, he made amends by getting that goal as well. So a great finish. But yeah, again, it hasn't been mentioned by him. But the atmosphere was absolutely incredible. I mean, even some of the Arsenal players then must be like, we played all over the world, but this is just ridiculous. The people on the TV were mentioning it as well. I did notice after the game and 2 interviews, one from Eddie Howe and Anthony Gordon, that they both mentioned the word humble, which is quite ironic, seeing we saw everything that's been said about it with Manchester City and Arsenal. So, yeah, let's just move on. It's gone. Let's just concentrate on the next game.
Big Joe in Berwickshire sent a message. Good evening. I would like to thank Razor and John for last night's commentary. For us people that don't have Sky, the Newcastle commentary is fantastic. The Radio Newcastle commentary is fantastic for us. Thank you very much, says Joe. And actually, Razor, last night we got quite a few like that. It was a bit annoying actually in the end. Because
it did sound good, to be fair.
But
thank you.
We had, including people in Australia, somebody who was commuting, heading to work in Brisbane, somebody else doing similar in Melbourne, getting in touch because we were on BBC Sounds last night. And so I did promise to pass all the praise on to you, so there you go.
Well, thank you very much for your messages. That does mean a lot, and it's nice to know that the service Ando and I provide is appreciated, even better on a great night when they win. We always give you the game from the Newcastle United perspective. So even if it's on television, if you want to hear about it, as I'm sure you do, from the black and white angle, then you can listen to us. And we can put some Newcastle matches on the BBC Sounds app, not all because of broadcast rights restrictions. But Saturday, Birmingham in the FA Cup will be on BBC Sounds in the UK only. So if you're watching that on BBC One and BBC iPlayer, you can pause the BBC Sounds app to sync it up with the TV. Follow it from the Newcastle perspective there. Thank you for the messages, though.
Razor, thank you very much indeed. You'll be turning your attention to the FA Cup, won't you, on tomorrow night's show?
Yes, we will. Eddie Howe press conference in the morning, usual pre-match media session. And I just want to tell you, just after 7 o'clock tonight, Pridey, on Total Sport, we're going to hear post-match interviews from last night with Captain Bruno and this is quite unusual because he doesn't do much, Jason Tindall.
Mad Dog?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. What's his crack, I wonder?
We'll find out.
He's not normally allowed to speak, is he? It's normally Eddie that does all that.
He can do what he wants.
Well, Mad Dog Unleashed. Colin, good evening.
Good evening, Pridey. How are you, sir?
Very well. How are you, Colin?
Fantastic, mate. It's been quite a while since we spoke. In fact, the last time I think I bumped into you was a race course. So
that would be a long time ago then.
It probably was, mate. It probably was. But I have to start straight away on last night. I can honestly say, season ticket holder for 30 odd years, and been supporting Newcastle since I was a bairn. And what I will say about last night, that's the best atmosphere, and probably on level with the Barcelona game. Maybe Barcelona. I think it outbeat PSG.
Really? You think it was better than that?
100%. It was just the whole. There's that old adage that they say about the football fans can be the 12th man. It was 100% we were the 12th man yesterday. It was just start to finish. There was so much to talk about. I do agree. The whole team played as a whole brilliant. I thought Trips had a great game, but the two titans of Byrne and Botman were just outstanding. And we just took it in our stride yesterday, and I think it was one of them. Everybody talked about the nerves. I have to tell you, it's ridiculous to think that we were nervous when we were 2-0 up. And even at half time when we were 3-0 up on aggregate, we were still slightly, there's a little bit of nerve still then. But as soon as our fourth goal went in, superb. Yeah. But the hats off to the night has to go to the fans who started off that chant about it must be the ball.
Yes.
That was, without doubt, even Arsenal fans must have been laughing at that, because I think the best part of that wasn't just the chant. It was Arteta crawling back into his shell and going sitting down in the dugout, and Tyndall just laughing at him. And I just thought, absolutely brilliant.
For people that aren't aware, it's because Mikel Arteta complained about the ball after the first leg, didn't he? And suggested that it had a negative influence on his team.
Yeah, but there's not a fault can be picked about last night in any way whatsoever. I mean, I even come home, I was, metaphorically speaking, I was so high off that coming back, and we talked on the way back, and I even said to the lads who come back in the car with, that was actually probably better than the PSG game, with the atmosphere for there. And then lo and behold, you go and watch an interview by Bruno, and he mentions the atmosphere of the PSG game against last night. So, and I think and during that interview that I've watched, I think what was amazing about it, it makes you realise how important the fans are to the players when they're out there on that field, and how that comes across from them, and how the last night they played for us, and yes, of course they played for the club, but you understand what I mean when I say they played for us last night, and I couldn't have faulted anything, the whole brilliance of it. And but tonight, I've got to say, the best part of tonight, I'm loving the fact that you're winding Howie up, because it's actually making me giggle many times, because he's fighting like a fish in a fish pond, just being fed about 1,000 bits of food, which is well done for that Friday.
Well,
yeah, great little bit.
I'm just passing on messages. That's all. I'm just a conduit. Anyway, Steve, what did you make of everything that Colin said there, though, about the match?
The match itself. I mean, the match was excellent. I thought the way that the players handled the game and the occasion was brilliant. You know, I've been fortunate enough to play at some grounds and some great atmospheres. When I've been at St James's Park, and I've played at times when the place was rocking, I have to be honest, I've never heard a noise like it when I played there, and it was like that last night. It was like that against PSG. It is incredible. I do think the war flags thing, with the flags, all the flags when they're waving around their heads, and obviously the big banners and stuff like that, it makes it so good. And everybody, I mean, I had two mates who were Arsenal fans at the game, who I work with, and he couldn't talk anymore. He couldn't speak any higher of the supporters before the game and after the game. He said, I've been all over the world. He says, but the Geordie people in full floor, he said, it's never, ever to be repeated. He said it was just ridiculous.
Amazing to hear.
Colin, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts this evening. No, good to hear your thoughts last night, Colin. Obviously enjoyed the atmosphere. Said it was better even than the Paris Saint-Germain game. If you were there, would you go along with that? 0800 234 6565. Wendy has been on. Wendy in Wooler, and Albert from Wooler. She says, there would have been a phone call tonight from Albert. He would not have stopped smiling. He would have loved it. I'm sure he would, Wendy. Thanks very much indeed for getting in touch. Often think of Albert on big games for Newcastle. Say again, Steve, sorry?
I've got no doubt he was looking down watching it.
Absolutely. And Botman, says Dave from Cramlington, the Rolls Royce of Newcastle. He's written Batman. I think he means Botman. It was brilliant last night, says Dave. I would have to agree from last night's
game.
Big,
strong, aggressive, commanding. Good player.
This one says, getting to Wembley, well deserved. I don't want to repeat, though, of last time when players and fans were caught up in the going for a good day out attitude, which was enormously draining for players and fans. Howe needs to manage the players in the lead up so that the first 11 are not fatigued or injured like last time, because with a fit first team, we can beat anybody on the day, says Brian.
I agree. I think, on the last one, I mean, if there was ever a chance to win a cup final, it was against Man United, because for me, they're not a great team. They're certainly not a Man United off before. I mean, when I've been there, you played against a team that won the treble, a team that's won the double. So it was a great opportunity. Obviously, they had the issue with the goalkeeper as well. But, regardless of whoever it is, they've got a great chance.
Indeed, and probably learned from that previous occasion. Steve, thank you for now. William, thank you for your message. I was even more nervous when I saw the formation last night, but it was a masterclass by the manager, and the game plan was executed perfectly by the players. Despite the defensive setup, our pressing startled Arsenal, and the dark arts of Trippier and Bruno gave them a dose of their own medicine. Everyone played their part. The front three, though, were the icing on the cake, says William. And this one is from Peter, who's in Prudder. Evening, Peter. Evening, lads. Are we really bothered about who we play at Wembley? It's been a tough route just to get there, so let's beat either of them. On last night, well, weren't Botman and Cher absolutely outstanding, says Peter. We've already commented on Botman, but Cher as well, Steve. Solid defensively, and was up the other end of the pitch to set up Gordon for the second goal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still perplexed by why the goalkeeper wants to pass it to Wright there when he's got a man right next to him, and he's taking the chance even though Rice tries to do the shoulder and come back. He's always going to get closed out, so it puzzles me that. I don't know why he just doesn't clean his lines. But yeah, he's pushed on. He's obviously got up for some sort of attack and just stayed up there, and obviously has the communication with the rest of the lads at the back to keep it nice and tight. But yeah, as I said, it's a difficult one to sort of see it. Him 100%. He was the best player by far. Thought everybody was superb.
And Steve in Leam Lane says, Simon, can you please inform Steve Howie that I think he's a very good-looking, young, in capital letters, man, very intelligent, whose football knowledge is second to none. Just a couple of tickets, please, Steve. Grovel.
He's definitely on the list.
You're on the list as well, Steve. Well done. And yeah, we've had this in as well.
Oh, Steve, it's Freddie here. You remember Norman the Milkman at St James's Park? Well, he nicked your football boots for us in 1993. Lovely pair of Nikes, like. I'll tell you what, I'll give you them back if you can get us a Wembley ticket. They're in good nick, like. I've put dubbing on them every year. All right, mate. Cheers.
Norman the Milkman?
Do you remember Norman the
It
Milkman?
wouldn't surprise me about my boots getting missing. Everything used to get missing at that point.
Well, he'll give them back if he'll do a swap.
I don't need them.
Don't need them?
That's a no.
He's
That's a
not
no.
on the list because he's part of a
Crime ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. He wants to watch his step a bit there, doesn't he? Let's bring you some more reaction now to Newcastle reaching the League Cup final then. Let's hear from the skipper, Bruno Guimaraes.
Unbelievable. Very happy for the team performance. I think everything was like we planned before. Very happy to go back, to go again, another final for this club. Gonna be massive for everyone and hopeful we can get this one. But very happy for the team performance tonight.
It's 70 years since a domestic trophy win. It's a very long time, a lot of pressure. Are you going to change it?
No pressure for us. I have been here for 3 years and this is my second final. It's no pressure. But very, very happy to get another one and hopeful if you can win, I think the city gonna stop for us, so gonna be massive, but no pressure. Another step, and you keep going. Since when I signed for the club, I always said that I would like to put my name in the club history, and tonight was another big step for it. So let's see. Very, very happy for tonight.
Interesting response there. Alistair was trying to put pressure on him, I guess, by talking about that 70 years. I guess, Steve, Bruno doesn't care about that history. What he cares about is, yes, going 2 years ago and kind of remembering that and what he's learned from that and just wanting to basically go and do it this time. So not feeling the pressure of history, he says.
No, because he can't do anything about that. That's the past. I mean, nobody can. That's gone. They've just got to look towards the future and can they win a cup? Can they win some silverware? Obviously, it coincides with a long wait, and it would be amazing. And I agree with him if they did manage to do it. I think it should only be right. I don't think you'd need any kind of offers or sort of laws about this, but I think that the place would pretty much shut down. I think everybody would be coming out. I think there could be a day's holiday in Newcastle. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think many people would be going to work certainly if they did the tour, if they did manage to pull it off. But a huge opportunity. You've got to be in it to win it. They're in it. So it'll be interesting to see who they get.
Now, in a rare interview, Eddie Howe's assistant manager, Jason Tindall, says that their defeat at Wembley 2 seasons ago did teach them a lot.
Whoever we come up against now in the final, Tottenham or Liverpool, two top teams with exceptional players, and it's another game for us, and we've got to go out there and deliver the level of performance that we've delivered in both of these semi-finals, and hopefully we can go there this time and go one better than we did last time. Obviously 2 years ago when we got to the final, there was a lot of talk. It's the first time that we've got to a final in a number of years, and that was all the noise going into it. It was a new experience for many of the players, the staff as well, and a lot of the fans, and maybe sort of the occasion maybe sort of got to us with the lack of experience, and that's what I said. We've got to learn from them experiences. We've just got to approach it like we approach any Premier League game, and we've got to go there and try and get the job done.
Jason Tindall amidst the chaotic post-match scenes at St James's Park last night. Another member of the coaching staff, Graham Jones, he might have a bill to pay. He sometimes sits with the analysts in the press area, in the media area during the game. You've probably seen him.
Yes.
Well, those desks that everyone sits at and the big plastic bits that go over the top, kind of protecting the desks from protecting all the electronic equipment and stuff. Well, yeah, when the goal went in, so not the disallowed goal, the Isak one, but when Murphy's goal went in, there was an almighty crack, and he just smacked his fist down, just in celebration, or put his fist in the air, and he'd caught the plastic. Somehow he's managed to crack it, and it's really thick plastic, and the whole thing's come off. It was extraordinary. So he's got to
I think that... Well, I think he'd be more than happy to pay for it.
I think he probably will, yes. I think in the circumstances, yes. Anyway, let's have a chat now to Graham, who is a Newcastle supporter. Let's find out how he found last night. Evening, Graham.
Evening, Simon, Marco, Steve. Yeah, I am absolutely buzzing, Simon. I mean, it was, as people have already mentioned, I think it was on a par probably with the PSG, and the older fans can probably remember the Barcelona game and stuff like that. So it was certainly in my top 3 for atmosphere. It was absolutely tremendous, and well done again to the war flags. With the display, it certainly is a massive help. And also having the guy on the Sam Fender trumpet guy there was an added bonus. It just added to the atmosphere and just set it alight, really. I mean, I don't think Arsenal knew what had hit them, actually. I mean, everybody thought Arsenal were going to come out guns blazing, but we actually did that to them, and I don't think that they knew quite what was going on. Obviously, they had that big chance when they hit the post, but just an all-round from 1 to 11, completely opposite of Saturday when you couldn't pick a man of the match last night. It probably... you could honestly say probably all of them are man of the match. I mean, the one guy that doesn't get mentioned, Steve's probably, for me anyway, is Dan Burn, who I thought, again, was brilliant. Just gets on with it. He's not a skillful, fantastic, Bruno or a Tonali type player, but he's just solid as a rock, and he ran his heart out last night, and you need those types of players.
I agree. I thought he was excellent. I mean, I think he gets maybe he's a bit more praise than somebody like Murphy, but should he get more? I agree, because I think his performances since he's been at Newcastle, he has been excellent. I mean, he's kind of the wave. There's been some tough periods. You've seen a couple of times, because I was watching the game on the TV, you've seen a couple of times he looked exhausted. He looked out on his feet, but he still got up. He still carried on, and he was still ready to run that extra 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. And I think I think people like him are brilliant in the dressing room because he's from the area. Yeah. And he gets it. Not that I think that the players need that, but it definitely helps when you've got somebody like that, sort of the local lad, if you want. I mean, obviously you've got Sean Longstaff as well, and Lewis Miley, but I can't imagine Lewis being very vocal. And I certainly can see Dan Burn being vocal in the dressing room.
No, absolutely. It gives it a good mix, but a few Geordie lads there, particularly, as you say, Dan Burn. And it's interesting, obviously, what Mad Dog just said there about, because the majority of those players played in that last final, it will hopefully give them an extra boost and a little bit, I don't know, experience, call it what you want, but just that extra bit of determination that this time, hopefully we'll get over the line and win that elusive cup. I mean, this will be my... I'm getting a bit now, and this is going to be my 5th final, and we've lost the 4 previous ones. My first one was in '76, so I'm absolutely desperate to see them get over the line this time and finally lift that trophy up.
Yeah. What's your theory on how much 2 years ago will help, Steve? Obviously, in the late 90s, Newcastle got to 2 FA Cup finals in a row, lost both of them, but I don't know if those players that had played in the first one, playing in the second one, whether it did improve their performance in any way or did help the team in any way. What's your theory?
For me, I think, and I know it's the same with people saying, people tend to rubbish it, but that's their one. I think you've just got to play the game rather than the occasion. If you think about the occasion and get caught up in it, you can lose yourself a little bit, and you can get like, oh wow, this is a big stadium, wow, it's a big pitch, wow, I feel tired, and all this kind of thing, or it's not going my way. Whereas it's your team that you played in week in, week out, and it's a team that you've played against regularly. So I just think it's the concentrate and let's do our jobs regardless of the arena, because it is impressive and it is different. But having said that, it's kind of different every other week when they travel away. So it is important not to play the ground, if you want, because obviously it has got that aura about it as Wembley. But just know they've got so many fans down there wanting them, as well as hundreds and hundreds of thousands back home wanting them to do well. But you have still got to kind of cut yourself off from that a little bit and just concentrate on the job at hand, because if you think about that too much, it can get to you, it can put you off. But I think a lot of these lads, because they did play in the first game, they know what to expect this time. I think it might have been a little bit, oh wow. And it can be a little bit, as I said, rabbit in the headlights type thing.
Are you going to be watching the game tonight, Graham? See you there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I will be, Simon. It's going to be interesting. I mean, yeah, I've got a slight preference, obviously, that you would rather play at Tottenham. Whether we'll get that, I don't know. And I think, to be honest, the rest of the country would like to see Tottenham Newcastle just for a change. But either way, whoever will play, I mean, you know, we've beaten Forest away, albeit on penalties. We've beaten Chelsea. We've beaten Arsenal. So nobody can turn around and say we've had it easy. We've certainly, you know, had some tough games. In the final, whoever it is, you know, you've just got that a little bit more of a feeling this time, not surely.
Yeah.
As I've just said, hopefully it's going to be this is going to be our year and we'll get through. And massive credit to Eddie Howe. You know, he's had his critics this season from certain quarters, unbelievably. He hasn't been supported in the transfer market, but, you know, you think two Wembley appearances in the last 3 years, Champions League, you've got to say he's just doing a fantastic job, and hopefully they will give him the money to spend in the summer to strengthen the squad as well.
Graham, thank you very much indeed.
Right, cheers,
well spoken as ever. 0800 234 6565, the number to call. This message is from Daryl. Zapped all my energy with the disallowed goal. I've got no voice left today. Well, that was quite early on, Daryl, as well. Atmosphere was on key and the performance matched it. Each player battled and played Arsenal at their own game, and serenading Arteta is so much fun, says Daryl. Onwards to Wembley. I don't care which team it is. This is our year. How are the lads? And Steve, can you please add me to your list, says Daryl.
Not a problem. But by the way, did you see the, what's it called, I'm going to see a tweet. Did you see the tweet by Newcastle? And the picture, and there was a ball in the back of the net, and they just sort of said the culprit or something, or culprit, because obviously the ball.
Having a little bit of a pop, okay.
I think it got quite a few likes.
Yes, I'm sure it did. Terry, one more for now. Terry from Sunnyside. Great show, lads. Brilliant performance by the Toon last night. Arsenal can't play against the rough and tumble, and we kicked them. We went out and kicked them off the park. And Cher man-marked Rice out of the game. Rice kept dropping back to get into the game, but Cher never left him alone no matter where he was on the pitch. It was amazing. I have heard that Asula has been training as a right side forward the past few weeks, so he might be a sub for Murphy in the near future. So, he didn't feature last night, did he? Even when Isak was pretty tired towards the end. I wondered if Asula might come on when the tie looked safe, but he still didn't come on, did he?
He didn't, and the manager will know that. Manager will have the reasons behind that. Like I said, I've discussed this so many times. You know, what was he, 12, 15 million? I just don't get. I just don't get how you're not ready.
No, it is a bit of a strange one. We will see. Maybe he'll feature on that right hand side.
You all right, Steve? It's just John here. I was wondering if you could get us 4 tickets for Wembley leg. I'll meet you down in the pub at King's Cross. Aye, if you could get us them tickets, that'd be great. Cheers.
There's another 4 to add to your list. I mean, you've still got plenty, I would imagine, spare, have you?
Well, do you know what? Just for something and giggles, I'm going to say you can have 6.
Lots of Billy's getting in touch tonight. This one's from Billy and Jarrah. What about Trippier, Steve? He was like a brand new player last night. He was absolutely outstanding. And as you said, Steve, he was ready for a fight as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, like I said, he was. I mean, he's a quality player. He's an experienced player. I mean, there was talk about him possibly leaving in the transfer window. He seemed. I think he's obviously somebody in the dressing room and the training ground that's absolutely brilliant to have, and you can call him in at any moment, which they did do. He obviously clearly looks after himself. He hasn't played for a while. Obviously, Liverpool has got that position, but he's a valuable part of that team, a valuable part of the squad. But like I said, I think he'd been eating raw meat before the game.
Ron in Washington, Eddie Howe is a genius. However, the ref's blatant disregard of the rules by not booking away players in the last 3 home games should be explained by the PGMOL. Also, the offside decision to rule out Isak's goal looks dodgy to me as well, says Ron. It was close and it took them forever, didn't it?
It was close. I mean, I thought he might have just been offside just on that initial, as we watched it live.
Yeah.
So I think he could be offside here. And the lines, I'm not too sure about the lines, but there you go.
Albert in Walker says, hi guys, great show. I'm still buzzing from last night, still emotional watching it back as well. Back in 1955, my dad was mascot for the team, and I have great photos of him walking in front of the open-topped bus on the way to St James's Park. He says, and unfortunately, just before the FA Cup final against Arsenal, which was back in 1998, he passed away. And John Anderson actually sent him well wishes just before we played Wimbledon. Let's hope that this is the year that he will get to see us lift the cup next month. Looking down, says Albert in Walker. Thank you very much indeed, Albert. Knocker in Spennymoor says, Steve, can you get him a ticket for the Liverpool end? For the final. So he thinks Liverpool are going to get through.
I think that would be a no.
Oh, okay. Well, you could put him on the list. You could try, couldn't you? I'm sure you got some contacts on Merseyside.
Otherwise, you want to be in Liverpool end. No.
I don't know. He's just asking. Trev says, can Steve get me a ticket for the Super Bowl?
I can get him 2.
Okay. Because they're pretty tricky to get hold of as well, I think, aren't they? And
I've got connections.
This one's come in as well. I'm not too sure about this one, to be honest. Have a listen to this one.
How do, Steve? It's Big Tony here from the Cow. Just wondered if you can get us a ticket for Wembley. I really want to go. Me and the Bairns and like all my family. 10 tickets or something. If you can do that, I'll make sure I get you a bag of meat from the butcher. Like nice sausages and like, bit braised steak. If you can sort that out, that'll be perfect. And I'll meet you down Wembley. Decent kebabi like Wembley. From last time I went to Greek place, and we can go there and get the tickets. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
I'm not sure about that one. Don't know who that is. Who's that?
Well, in all fairness, I don't think it's a great deal to get a little bit of braised steak for 10 tickets.
Well, if it's good, if it's good meat.
It needs to be a lot of braised steak.
You're fussy, you are, aren't you?
Need a bit more braising steak.